And now,
Introducing
the one, the only.
Let me introduce to you
Lively talk with successful people, barely filtered. This is the Jenna Ben Show.
Okay, we got Justin Dillon in the house. Justin and I met, I think we're like Insta buds for a while, the Wrestling Classic over here. And then we finally met in person and like did a whole bunch of stuff together when you came to LA in February.
Crazy that it was even this year. It feels like it's been so long.
Okay, I want to talk about John Cena and his situation, right? Because I mean, I'm not like super into wrestling, but I do remember watching what was it called? Total Divas?
And Total Bellas, the two shows with the Bella twins on the
So I never watched the Bella show, but the Divas one I watched, and Nikki was dating John Cena, and the storyline was that she wanted marriage like so bad, but she also wanted kids. And fast forward, I see the headlines and I'm like, wow, John Cena is now engaged or married to another woman.
It's so crazy because basically we're going to talk about the drama. Okay. So basically I do watch Total Divas and Total Bellas because that's in my wrestling bubble. But basically Nikki and Cena were dating for years, right? And serious relationship, I think since like 2014, 2013ish they've been dating. Maybe in 2012 if I'm correct. And he was totally against, one, he's been married and divorced. And it didn't end happily. So he was like kind of against marriage. And then when it came to kids, he just, from what I remember, he's not fully against having kids, but while he's so deep into his career, whether it was at that time it was really wrestling focused, but now he's Hollywood. But when he didn't want to have kids, if he was going to be so busy, like that was always the thing. So he's just like, no kids. Like I don't want to have kids. Like it's not on the table. She always wanted to have kids and she always wanted to get married. I think when her twin sister Brie had their first kid, she really got the baby fever.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's when, obviously reality television is very scripted and whatnot, but there was some truth to that, I think, because she wanted marriage, she wanted kids. It became like the main storyline in the show to the extent where we saw John Cena propose to Nikki Bella at WrestleMania in the middle of the ring in front of hundreds of thousands of fans and millions watching at home. And everyone's like, oh, this is like, she's finally getting one of the things she wanted. He's actually going to marry her. And, we all got to be a part of it. And like, it was the first time Cena's mom ever out of his like 16-year career, the first time his mom came to a wrestling show because she knew he was going to propose. Like it was and, that was him, bending himself a little backwards and getting out of his comfort. He didn't want any of that. And then it just didn't work out because the kids thing was still there. And it's so crazy now because while they were dating in the end half of it, Nikki was on Dancing with the Stars and that's where she met Artem. That was her partner. And they, everyone, just like I'm sure any sort of fandom, wrestling fans like to suggest and come up with rumors like, Nikki
boy,
this guy seems so close. Like, with my girlfriend, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with it. Like all those type of things, right? Obviously the show portrayed it that they didn't start talking to each other like that until way after Nikki broke up with Cena. But, they eventually called off their wedding. Nikki eventually started dating Artem. They have a child now. They have
wow.
Are
they married?
No, they're not married, but it's so crazy because Nikki and Brie, somehow the twin sisters got pregnant at the same time and their kids were born like I think like a week apart or something, or maybe even a day apart if I'm really correct.
With Brie's second kid then?
With Brie's second kid. They both
had
sons. This is Brie's first son and Nikki just had a son. So now they have two sons who were born like a day or a week apart or something like that. And, she's happy doing what she's doing. But I think like we heard months ago that John Cena was dating a girl, the same girl that he got married to recently. She's actually from here in Vancouver. Cena met her while he was filming a movie here. And I think it kind of shocked him like how quickly he got married to her because like Nikki and Cena dated for like 6 years and it was a big issue. He made her sign a prenup with common law. Like it was like a whole different situation. And now, like, he's married, she's got a baby, and it just shows you how quickly life can move on, after you break up with someone that you think you might be madly, deeply in love with. Like,
But hold on, let's talk about that. I feel like that's a thing. I feel like we see this a lot. We see the first girl put in all this time, years, effort, energy, kicking, screaming, begging, negotiating to get that ring and that child, and then doesn't work out. You know, we see the guy putting up a fight, ultimately it fizzles. Boom, the very next girl, they get married a lot faster, they get the kid, they get the perfect life. So what's that about?
I don't know. That's what, like, people will be joking about that. Like, yo, if Cena has a kid with this woman in the next year, like, that says a lot, This is the thing. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses for either party, and I try to avoid talking about this type of stuff on my page, but this is fun because I actually talk about it. But, like, we'll crack jokes and stuff, and some of this doesn't sound really harsh. Like, it'd be so funny if, like, Cena sent Nikki one of his kids' books for her kid. Like, you know what I mean? but like, I was trying to think about it. I'm like, the dynamics are really different, though. Because when it was Cena and Nikki, they were both, like, super famous, doing the same, not super famous, like, popular famous,
Yeah, in their world, yeah.
In their world. They had their following. They were both out there grinding. At the time, they were both wrestling. They were both on the road. They're both working the WWE. Cena's doing this thing in Hollywood now and popping into the WWE every once in a while. Nikki's still doing all of her wine stuff. Like, she's a public figure. For goddamn sake, like, they kept their babies' names a secret to let, like, one of the popular magazines break the news. Like, they were paid to keep their baby names a secret. Like they're popular enough where they're out there. Where I think the difference with Cena's current wife lady is, like, she's like the rest of us. She's like a normal person. She's got an engineering degree. She's working out here. Like, I think him having a kid with her, I think he probably feels a little bit more secure because he's like, well, even if I'm really busy, like, he trusts her enough to take care of it. Because I don't know, like, Nikki was on the road. Nikki's busy. Nikki has her own goals and dreams and achievements. He has his own goals, dreams, and achievements. I'm not saying she doesn't, but it's not
right.
to the extent of, like, what, their, Nikki's might be. Like, will she be a great mother at the time? Will she stay home? Will she, like, maybe that was part of it. I don't know. I know Cena's big thing was, like, I don't want to have a kid if I'm not going to be there. I don't want to be that dad.
Interesting.
But to your point, though, I want to get back to this. The only thing I didn't answer. I do think that tends to happen a lot. I do think someone will go through a really either toxic or difficult relationship where, both people in the relationship are making it so difficult for each other, and then you break up, and then that next relationship, you're so much more tame because you don't want to go through all of that again.
Is that what that is? Is it like it's been beaten out of you, so you're just like, F it, I'm giving in? Or what? Like, what is it?
I think it's because, like, here, I'll use myself for example. I was in a relationship for 5.5 years from the age of 21 to 26. In that time, started the wrestling class, all that. Like, I always joke around that. If you guys watched my first interview with Jenna, like, I said it straight up, like, the wrestling classic started because my ex didn't want me to have Instagram. That tells you the it was, right? Like, we had our issues. When it was good, it was great, but when it was bad, it was like trust issues, bad, poor communication, just insecurities, all that stuff. I've dealt with all that stuff during that relationship. And I don't regret it, things that I am who I am today because of it and all of that. But I know, because I'm at that age too. Like, I was telling you before we came on the air, like, it's one of my best friend's weddings. Like, it's a wedding week this week. And last summer I had like 10 weddings. I'm sure there would have been just as many this year, but there was a pandemic. So I always get asked, oh, Justin, when are you going to get married? Justin, when are you going to settle down? And I've come to a point where I'm like, even like, I'm like, because I date and I see people, and I've had multiple things over these past 2 years of being single and whatnot. It just, none of them has hit home. Like, none of them has been like, oh, I think this is the one. And I think because what I've gone through, I think I know more of what is the one. I'm not just trying to date someone for the sake of dating someone, or if we vibe a little bit. Like, you'll know sometimes, like, if you vibe with someone, but then you're like, I don't know, like, we're good like this, but I don't think we'd be good long term. Like, you can tell now, or you can tell, like, honestly, like, you're a great person, I dig you, you're attractive as hell, but I think we'd actually be just better as friends. Like, you can tell now. Because you try to take someone you're good with friends with and then you try to make it a thing. Sometimes it doesn't work. Then you lose a friend, and also you start hating each other because you actually are really different when it comes to actual relationship situations. And I think the experience of being in like a toxic, difficult relationship allows you to learn that. So when you find someone after, like, for using Cena, for example, I'm sure when he found this chick, it was everything. He was like, oh, this makes sense. Oh, this seems so easy now. Like, oh, we don't have this problem. Like, and then you're like, no, this is the one. That's it. I get it now. Because you've already had the bad. You know what the bad is. So you know what you're looking for. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I'm trying to think if I've ever been in that situation where, like, I date someone and then it drives me crazy that they do X, Y, and Z, but then I meet the next person after and then I'm more like lax about it. I think it might be about expectations and demands too, because Nikki was really demanding of John. You know, she just from what I remember watching the shows, you know, like she was like, I want it, I want it, I want it, as opposed to letting things unfold naturally. And there was a lot of like, but whys, you know, and I think that anybody in that position is going to feel like uncomfortable and turned off. So when you remove that pressure and just let things kind of unfold, that's probably why homegirl number 2 is, you know,
Still laid back, gave him like, you know, like the thing I'd say about Nikki, and you said it perfect, was the word pressure. Like there was always like, they'd have the conversation, they'd argue about it. She would agree with him, be like, okay, I understand, it's not going to happen. And then she'd go back at it again. That is the most annoying thing in the world. Like, if we've come to an agreement and you do side with me, like, you know what, I understand where you're coming from, fine, it won't happen. And then a week or a month goes by and you bring it up again, I'm gonna be like, yo, then it's just, it gets, you know, just making you lose your mind a little bit. So,
yes,
the old Einstein quote, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you expect a different result, then, you know, that's what insanity is.
right.
That's what they were doing. They kept doing the same thing over again. And I understand where she was coming from too, because I think you can tell me, like, women, I think they, you know, when it comes to having children, once they get over 30, they start getting a little bit more stressed out about it. And you gotta remember when they were dating, I think Nikki was already 33, 34 at that point. She's like 35, 36 now, just had a kid. Like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? So I think that was part of it too. They weren't getting any younger. But I don't know, maybe this girl that Cena's dating now is younger. I think that plays a part too sometimes, because now he's probably like, oh, I got time, you know, like.
And for the girl, she's probably less pressured. I wonder if that's a thing. Lots of speculation. We don't know, but I did meet Nikki Bella at Sports Spectacular last year. It was cool meeting her. You know, she was nice, but it was like, she was single at that time, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's just finding your right people. And I think now they've found their right people. And that's just, I for anyone that's younger, listening to this, or even my age and dating, like, I think the hardest thing to do sometimes is letting go and ending a relationship, even when you know, like, that is like the hardest thing to do.
Letting go when you know that they're not the one.
Yeah, and even when you know it's like it's not working, and it's because you're so comfortable with each other, you're so used to that person, and a million other people could be telling you like, hey, like, if you're not happy, then you should just break up. Like, you know, life goes on. Like, things will work itself out. But even hearing it when you're in it, like, it sounds like just like minimal sound. Like,
Yeah.
other people saying it seems easier said than done. When you're in it, it's not that easy. Like, I love this person, and like we have all these memories, and who am I going to talk to every day? Like, I'm so used to her. You know what I mean? Like, everyone goes through problems, but just from my experience, from other people I've seen, like, mostly if you're younger, man, I'm like, don't, like, once again, I don't regret anything, but don't, like, waste some of your prime years in a relationship. That if you don't see you guys together 20 years from now and still not having the same arguments you were having back then, like, just let yourself go, because I promise you life goes on.
Well said, Justin Dillon. Give us your Instagram handle so people know how to find you.
TWC Worldwide is my Instagram account for the Wrestling Classic right now. Please go follow and support that. From there, there's also a TWC show that's on Dash Radio every Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time on Dash Talk X. Check out the show. And last but not least, if you really want to, you can follow me on my personal. It's Justin Dillon. It's just, I was lucky.
Yeah, and YouTube.
And YouTube, the Wrestling Classic. Subscribe to my YouTube channel.
All right, Justin, it was great kind of catching up with you, even though we didn't talk about anything related to us. But I hope to see you in LA sometime soon after this crazy COVID thing passes.
Yeah. Hope you are doing all right down there.